I believe in sharing Black stories. Some people will listen, some people won't. Some people care, some people don't. But I got something to say. I want to share a little bit of my Black story.
You are a good writer. And every good writer has a conflicted relationship with the place where he grew up.
I'm currently in therapy, and one of the main reasons I'm in therapy is to heal from childhood trauma. One of the biggest contributors to my childhood trauma is being discriminated against based on the fact that I'm Black. People tried to convince me that I was delusional. I lived in an imaginary world. Racism was a thing of the past. They put me on the spectrum of autism. I got expelled from high school because I was calling people out on their racist bullshit. And what's going on right now is extremely traumatizing and triggering for me. And then there's a weird sense of liberation because I feel like people who didn't realize it before are starting to realize that racism still exists. And I'm like, well, where the fuck were you? Under a rock? Because how could you not? Bruh. I have been like scared to go out because of the fact that racism is one of my main triggers. And I lived in Utah for 4 years, and my fiance would want to know why I would get so angry when somebody would say something racist to me. This is another video on another day, but just imagine a white kid saying 60 years ago she would have worked in my field. Bruh. Am I supposed to laugh at that? Bruh. So just dealing with stuff like that and thinking I'm just supposed to, I'm the bigger person. You know, my ancestors was like, oh no, we had to be the bigger person. Go ahead and handle that. Anyway, I don't condone violence. But if you write a check, your ass can't cash. What? Bro, you gotta pay up somehow, some way. So I grew up in Southern California, went to pretty diverse schools. I grew up in the Valley from like 3rd to 12th grade. So from 3rd to like 6th grade, I lived in like more diverse parts of the Valley, like North Hollywood and Studio City. So there were other Black kids, but I remember us still being a minority to the majority. But it didn't affect me as much as it did as I got older. This is a picture of me in an after school recreational program or something like that. Yeah, I was the token sometimes. You know what? I take that back. It did have an effect on me. Like, whose idea was this? Hashtag dear Black parents. 7th grade, I moved to Denver, Colorado, and I go to an all-Black school there. Now, at that school, I got bullied for not being Black enough. I get called whitewash. I talk like a white girl, listen to white people music. I got jumped by 2 girls. That's another video on another day. And, you know, I was dealing with a lot, and I felt very disconnected to my Black peers, and that wasn't my intention. So I was like, wait, what? So let me state for the record, in my book, there's not one way to be Black. If you're Black, you're Black, unless you're like that Rachel lady and you're just not Black. Imitation is the best form of flattery, but ma'am, please. You ain't gotta lie to kick it. But regardless of the music you listen to, your hobbies, your skin tone, the way you talk, if you're Black, you're Black. But let me state also, I've never been the perfect student. Academics was never my strong suit. I was always like the class clown, the one who talks too much, the one with the short attention span, and it got me in trouble a lot. But all 3 of those things are very congruent to the personality I still have till this day at 31 years old. So I like to think of myself as consistent and non-conforming, and I pride myself on that because since I was a little girl, people would tell me who they wanted me to be, or people tried to conform me into who they wanted me to be, and I just wanted to be myself. And, you know, I still feel that way as an adult. So what's the issue in that? And I'm fully aware that trying to be yourself comes with a price. You might lose out on opportunities and friendships. But as a Black woman, I want to stay true to myself. And some people don't like that. And I don't want to sound pompous, but maybe some people don't like that when they're not sure who they are. So they can't deal with the fact that someone's comfortable with who they are, as far as their personality goes. Bruh. Anyway, so yeah, went to that school, went through a lot. A lot of my peers, including myself, were defiant. And now that I think about it, it was probably just a cry out for help, and nobody knew how to help us. A lot of us had young parents that were still, you know, trying to figure out life themselves. So they weren't really focused on what we were doing. I was already dealing with depression and anxiety. Depression set in early, I feel like around 9, but, you know, I come from a Black family, so a lot of us reject the unfamiliar. So I wasn't I didn't know I was depressed. I just knew I had a very unhealthy relationship with food. I was gaining weight rapidly. So I was definitely getting bullied for that too, because fat phobia is real. And I was confused about my sexuality. Look at that little baby stud. I had been through stuff I shouldn't have went through already. And my mom had just remarried. My dad just had a new baby. So I just felt just lost in the sauce and unloved. But food was coming through for your girl. But I developed anxiety after getting jumped because I was scared I was going to get jumped every day. So just, imagine all that stress on a little 12-year-old girl's head. And she awkward, she got braces. Well, it was a lot. So leave that school, and then I go to another school. So this is when, the race issues really started to happen. My parents thought the new frontier was to move to a city called Calabasas. First day of school, I had to go into defense mode. 3 white boys come up to me. I'm walking up to a payphone, probably to call my mom to save me. Like, where do you have me at? Is this Pleasantville? Where the hell am I? So I'm about to call my mom. I'm at the payphone, and 3 white boys come up to me, and one says, "This is Cala Blacklist. What are you doing here?" And I'm like, Cala Blacklist? Oh, that was supposed to be funny? I don't know if he was joking, but it wasn't funny to me. And I said, clearly it's not that blacklist if I'm here and I'm black, bitch. And I didn't say the bitch part, but I should have. I said the rest of the things I said. And I walked away, but I was already like, I'm about to get played on my blackness here. So I wasn't black enough for my black peers, and I'm too black for my white peers. And all they had to see was that I had black skin and I was non-conforming. So they wanted me to sit in the back of the class and just shut up and go along with the flow. And I wasn't with that. I would refuse to read books. I was like, I can't identify with these characters. The story doesn't relate to me. I want to read books by black authors or with black characters. And I recall, I don't know what class it was, but I recall a teacher allowing me to do that. And for that, I'm thankful, but it was still a problem. Like, let's just questioning our curriculum. We got to get her out of here post haste. So, have you ever heard of the criminalization of black girls? It's a real thing. There is a book called Push Out by Monique Morris. Please Google it, because I was one of those black girls that was criminalized. So I was always, I was gaining weight rapidly. I was taller than most of the girls, and I was just very awkward, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, 15. I probably didn't feel like I came into my beauty until I was like 16, 17. When I was out of school at Calabasas, and boys outside of Calabasas started to like me. Bruh. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Right, thank you. Because in Calabasas, I was nobody's perception of beauty. And that was really hard to, notice too. And you know that, and you see that, and you're like, you see it on TV and blah, blah, blah. And it was clearly an issue that I based beauty around if a boy liked you or not. That's why I'm so adamant about telling your daughters that they are beautiful, because they'll try to find it somewhere else. So, already in defense mode first week. And, there were other black kids there. There was about 10 of them. I only remember 5, but I'm rounding it to 10. But they grew up there, so they were, like, immune to it or used to the bullshit. Or they had a non-black parent, so they were still trying to figure out their blackness. But it was just like, they saw that I wasn't having it. So they started to rely on me to stand up for them, too, when a kid would say something racist. So, I was very privy to what white privilege was before I knew it was white privilege. I was punished way more harshly than my white peers, even if we did the same thing. And I would ask, is it because I'm black? And the staff would flip out. You cannot think that's the reason. It's because it's just not because you're black. And then well, can you please tell me what it is? Cause but this is where it really just started to, go downhill. My white peers love to say the N-word, and they like to say it with the hard R. And was I just supposed to laugh? Like, what was I supposed to do? So, a lot of people might think you were supposed to beat them up, but I wouldn't go that far. But what I would do is make threats. They love to quote the Dave Chappelle show. They love to say, I hate N-words. I guess he said that in a character he played. Dave Chappelle ended up being traumatic for my childhood, so I didn't watch the show. But I know he's a very funny comedian. But as a kid, I didn't watch the Dave Chappelle show because white kids would come up to me and be like, I hate N-words. Bruh. And I would meet them with their same white energy and say, if you say it again, I'm going to have to kick your ass. So I wouldn't, code switch and be like, hey, you say that shit again, I'm going to fuck you up. You going to want to jump out your skin and jump in mine and see what it's like to have some. No, I wasn't doing all that. I would just be like, yeah, bro, it really might have to go down like that if you keep saying that word. I was just prepping them for life, I feel like, because they might have been able to get away with it in Calabasas, but say it outside of Calabasas. Go to North Hollywood and say it to one of those white kids, and they wouldn't be having it. That was like the hood for white people back then. But they knew better. Like, why don't y'all, bitch ass, look. So we'd be in class sometimes, and someone would say it, and I wouldn't know who said it sometimes, and I would say it again, and I'll kick your ass, and the teacher would be like, oh, Serafina. I don't even know if they called me Seraphine. I think it was Sarah at this point still. Oh, yeah, it was Sarah. Because there was another black girl named Sarah, and I became Big Sarah. And that played on my insecurities about my weight, too. So imagine being the big black girl, and they call you Big Sarah. It was a lot. But anyway, go to the office, post haste type shit. I'm in the office. Did you threaten so-and-so? Yes, I did. Do you know why? It doesn't matter. You made a threat. We take threats here very seriously. We're going to have to suspend you. So I'm just going around throwing around threats because it's Tuesday? No. Somebody did something to me for me to do something to them. Like, I'm not just reacting because I'm bored. So I would get suspended for that majority of the time. I know there were times I get sent to detention or get referrals for other things, but usually I would get suspended for threatening a kid. And my parents worked a lot, I believe. But I was a latchkey kid, so they were rarely home. And then when they were home, our interactions were them disciplining me for getting in trouble. So it was I had a very traumatic home life and a very traumatic school life. And I felt like I was, the core problem. So there were times where I just thought about killing myself to end my problems. Like, it's never going to get better. I'm black. I already have 2 strikes against me. I'm a woman and I'm black. Like, this is how life is going to be for me. And I really believe that. And I'm so mad at myself for believing that. And I know there's still kids who deal with it till today. Like, I still see this bullshit everywhere. Stop. Oh. And so, like I said, the stereotype where black girls don't get to be little girls, my experience was the fact that all the other black kids were depending on me to stand up for them too. They would tell me so-and-so called me the N-word, or so-and-so said the N-word, and I'd go confront so-and-so. And it really, it's sad when I think about how it ruined my high school, middle school career, because kids were scared of me. So they didn't want to be my friend. I didn't really get invited to parties. I didn't get invited to sleepovers and stuff. So I just felt like this big bully, but I was being bullied. Like what do you call that? What were they doing to me? I felt like at the end of the day, what they were doing to me was showing me that systematic racism is a real thing. White privilege is a real thing. Racism is a real thing in general. It's like, these white kids can say whatever they want, but you and your broke black ass, you better not. At the end of the day, that was just the gist of it. Now, by no way am I pleading innocence, because I probably would fuck with some kids to get in good with some other kids, trying to fit in somewhere, getting laughs and feeling like I had friends or what have you. But it all stems from that fucking trying to fit in bullshit in high school. I really was convinced that life was going to be that way, and I still experience that till this day. But I'm hoping and praying for a change. One of the saddest and funniest aspects to my whole story is the fact that people were scared of me because I was big and black. Teachers were scared of me because I was big and black, or they could have just been scared of me because I was black. But I would still go to church on Sundays in South Central and get called the white girl. Bruh. And so I wouldn't code switch. I was a tomboy, and that's another thing. I was battling with my sexuality, and I would get bullied for that too. They would spread rumors about me and ginger girls. So yeah, the gingers were like the blacks of the white people. And then but I felt bad for those girls. I'd be like, why y'all lying on these girls like that? Like, what? I'd be like, I might do that one day, but I'm not doing that with her, so why you gonna throw her under the bus like that? That was just rude. More trauma. When I was like in 11th or 12th grade, I didn't go to school in Calabasas, but I still lived out there, and I was walking down the street, and these boys yelled out the window, "Go home, nigger!" Okay. Yeah, that's where I was going anyway, but okay, thanks. So yeah, we would get bullied, the feminine boys, because I'm not sure if they were gay at this point. I know one of my old friends finally came out in our adult life, but you know, back then at 12, 13, he was more feminine. And then the Middle Easterns, and there were a couple of, I had one Mexican friend, and then she ended up leaving. But like the minorities, we still, you know, we tried to be friends, but they were still white at the end of the day, and they still wanted to be accepted by the, you know, crowd, and being friends with me wasn't really gonna get them where they wanted to be. And I was that kid too. Kids did not want, or moms did not want their kids associating with me like I was some type of gang member. And I was just not sneaky like everybody else's kids. So them kids was doing cocaine, smoking weed, what was shrooms, and I'm just not doing any of that, but I'm the bad kid. So I'm just like, okay. I'm thinking it's because I'm black. Like, what else could it be? Man, when I really think about it, in retrospect, they really tried to label me the bad kid, and I wasn't bad. I was too scared to be because I had black parents. I would get knocked like people joke about their parents hating them and stinging them. I would really get hit and spanked, even at 14, 15, like backhanded. Stop. But it's just, it's a real sad situation to me, and it's a situation that people have told me to, you know, get over and stuff, but it really has helped mold me into the woman I am, and that's why I'm very non-conforming, because I felt like my black peers wanted me to be more black, whatever that means, and my white peers wanted me to be less black, whatever that means. And not even the peers, the staff too. And I was like, no, I'm gonna be myself. I'm sorry, I have to stay true to myself. But at the end of the day, I'm frustrated. I have a right to be hostile. I ended up getting expelled from school. Hey, babe. Getting expelled from school for going up to a middle school with some other high school students because a black kid was called the N-word. And makes me sad. One of the dads did tell me, "Why do you think you're so big and bad? You're just a little girl." And I was like, thank you. Somebody sees that I'm just a little girl. But shout out to that dad for knowing that. May he rest in peace. There was another time, I think this was back in like 8th grade, where one of the black moms tried to convince the other black moms to not let their daughters speak to me anymore. But the black mom who she was trying to convince was like, sorry, I like Serafina. See, like she knew what was going on. She knew I was fighting the power. It was just, you know, it felt good to be seen for that moment. But I don't think even my parents saw me as a little girl anymore. They, you know, pretty much expected me to take care of myself, and I was responsible for my own actions and behaviors at that point. And yeah, I knew right from wrong, but I was dealing with a lot of wrong around me. So why was I supposed to be the only one who was right? Like, what? I still, till this day, people expect me to be the bigger person because I might literally be the bigger person. Like, no, that don't fly with me. I got expelled from that school. They gave your girl an IEP so they could get rid of me. And this is when they told my parents I have emotional issues, I have social disabilities, I have anger issues, I need to be put on meds. They put me on the spectrum, and they sent me to a non-public school. And my parents refused for me to be on medication. But I mean, I was dealing with a lot. I don't know if the medication would have helped, but they didn't want me to be a statistic. Okay. So I started at that school. Most of my peers were pretty defiant, along with me. So we got to wall out because there was no regular curriculum. We were like the screw ups of the world, you know, no one really cared about us at that point. We were the ones just not with the bullshit or dealing with a lot. No one coerced me into doing anything, but someone told me the benefits they got from self-harming. And so I was like, I'm gonna try that out. She said she has so much emotional pain, she turns it into physical pain. And it ended up working for me. And then my parents found out and then said I was doing it for attention, but I wasn't trying for, I didn't want them to know I did it. So I'm like, how the hell am I doing that for attention? I am not flat out saying, look at this, look at my arm. Like, look what you're doing to me. I wasn't doing any of that. I was embarrassed that I felt the need to result into that. And I'm just thankful I never thought drugs was like a way to escape. Because a lot of people do. I did use food as my way to escape, which is still a form of an addiction. But you know what? And I'm also glad I never killed myself like I insisted that people wanted me to do. This is a hard pill to swallow, but the negative stigma regarding mental illness in Black and brown communities needs to end. Black people, people of color, commit suicide. I've had to convince myself for many years and still till this day that my life is worth living, that I was put on this earth to serve a purpose bigger than myself. So I'm trying to fulfill that in any way that I can, because there's been so many times I've wanted to give up. And also I want to state for the record, that as much as I went through and as much as I felt unloved and disconnected and I felt like people were discriminating against me and I saw the white privilege all around me, I never thought about hurting anybody else. I never thought about coming up to the school and doing a school shooting or stabbing or anything crazy like that. I wasn't even violent. Even when I threatened my peers, no one was ever made a martyr. No one ever got slapped. No one ever got punched. No one ever... I don't even know if I cussed anybody. I didn't know how to cuss anyone out. My mom hadn't taught me that. I didn't see that around me, so I didn't know how to do it. And, you know, if they tried to label me the angry Black girl, that wasn't the case either, because I wasn't raised by one and she wasn't raised by one. So they try to put these stereotypes on Black women and, like, not without doing their damn research. But like I said, I got a right to be hostile while you putting labels on me and making me out to be the heavy, and I'm not the core issue. I ended up leaving that school and going to an all-white boarding school in Utah for my 11th grade year, something like that. You know, I dealt with some bullshit there. It was pretty much the same thing I experienced in Calabasas, but this was more circled around therapy. But my therapist hated me. And I can tell, but if I said something, who would believe me? But that wasn't the worst of it. It was such a charade there. I remember this girl was like, hey, Sarah, what's black and white and red all over? And I was like, ooh, I know this joke. A newspaper. And she was like, no, a nigger shot in the hood wearing all white. And I was like, you know what? I would be beating your ass right now if we weren't here. And a house parent who's an adult heard the whole joke and heard the whole threat and all that and was like, Sarah, don't react. Just go tell your house parents what happened. And I'm like, no, why don't you react and let her know that that's not okay? Like, whatever the consequences were, give her all of them. So at this place, they put me in a house where the house parents had adopted 2 Black children, a boy and a girl. The little girl was like 2 and the little boy was like 4 or 5, I don't know. But I would say to him, say it loud, and he would say, I'm Black and I'm proud. And he loved to like scream it. And then one day I said, say it loud. And he said, my dad said I can't say that anymore. And I was like, get me the hell out of this place right now. Post haste. I had a underlying health issue that no one believed, and as I got older, it got worse. I'm on medication for it now, but just imagine being a 15-year-old girl, knowing there's something going on with you. That's more of a, an internal disorder, but no one believes that there's something wrong with you because of the reputation I guess you've made for yourself, or the reputation that was just put upon you. People think you're doing stuff for attention. You're crying wolf. Like that was your thing. That's why I've been in therapy. You're like, what? Can you believe I'm dealing with all this stuff? And then I got this underlying health issue that no one want to hear about. So I'm just suffering alone until finally someone, I don't think my parents found out until I was about 19. And so I started dealing with it at 15. And it took that long for my parents to actually witness that there was something wrong with me. But that's why I'm passionate about helping children, because if we do act like the heavy or do act like the problem, sometimes it is a cry out for help. Sometimes we feel very unheard and unloved, and I want to help those children who feel that way. just because I was that child. Still dealing with that bullshit till this day. The difference between there and now is when my black peers tell me I'm whitewashed, or we call each other that, we know we're joking, so it doesn't hurt as bad. But it's still triggering for me, so I know I've gone off on a few of my friends. And I apologize for that. I know I get mad when people say, oh, be quiet, you're Calabasas. And I'm like, please don't call me that, because you don't know what I went through in that city. Don't play that shit with me. That was just a little bit of my black story. Don't second guess yourself when it comes to who you are. Know that racism is real, and it still exists till this day. Please know that I have been discriminated against because I'm black and because I'm a woman. Please know that my fiance has been discriminated against because he's black and he's a man. It really happens. And so you can't be thinking it only happens to adults. It happens to children too. So shout out to anybody that tried to break me during my childhood, because I'm still standing. I'm still strong. I'm big, black, beautiful, and loving it.
Nobody was able to steal my shine, and nobody can till this day, because I am bright like the sun, and God made me this way. I had to do a little spoken word at the end, but I am passionate about helping the youth. So if you know any opportunities where I can work with the youth, helping them experience life in a positive light, send the organization, etc. my way. In conclusion, stop criminalizing black children, dismantle racism, realize that Black lives matter, so we can all live happily ever after.